The war did not begin with explosions or loud alarms. It began with laughter. Inside the massive alien fleet academy, hundreds of cadets stood in perfect rows. The hall was made of dark metal and glowing panels that floated in the air like quiet stars. Alien officers of many species watched from raised platforms. They had conquered worlds. They had crushed armies. To them, this place was where the weak were filtered out. At the end of the line stood a human. His name was Ethan Cole. He was young, calm, and quiet. He wore the same standard recruit uniform as the others, but it looked strange on him among the tall and sharp-featured aliens. Humans were new to the galaxy. Small, soft, fragile. At least that was what everyone believed. Behind Ethan stood a giant metal crate. The alien fleet captain noticed it the moment he entered the hall. Captain Zorvac was tall, green-skinned, with sharp eyes and scales that reflected the blue lights. His medals showed decades of battle. He had ended rebellions with a single command. When his eyes landed on the human in the crate, his lips curled in amusement. "What is this?" Zorvac asked, his voice loud and echoing. The officers turned. The cadets followed. Silence spread fast. "A human recruit?" Zorvac said, stepping closer. "At cargo?" Soft laughter moved through the hall. Ethan stood still. His hands were relaxed. His face showed no fear. Zorvac walked around him slowly, inspecting him like an object. "You are very far from home, little human," he said. "This is not a place for pets or entertainers." More laughter. Ethan did not answer. Zorvac stopped in front of the crate. "And what is inside this box?" he asked. "A toy, a weapon, or something to make us laugh?" Ethan finally spoke. His voice was steady. "Permission to release my companion, Captain." That made the laughter louder. "A companion?" Zorvac repeated. "You think this is a game?" Before Ethan could speak again, alarms suddenly rang across the hall. Red light flooded the room. The floating panels flashed with warning symbols. An officer rushed forward. "Captain. Unknown fleet detected. They just exited hyperspace. No alliance markings." Zorvac's expression changed. "Battle stations," he ordered. The academy hall shook as distant explosions echoed through the ship. The war had arrived without warning. The alien fleet moved fast. Cadets were rushed out. Officers gave sharp commands. Ethan was pushed aside with the others, forgotten in the chaos. The unknown attackers were brutal. Their ships were old but deadly. They fired without warning, cutting through defense lines. The alien fleet had numbers, but the enemy had rage. Inside the command corridor, smoke filled the air. The ship trembled again and again. Ethan was separated from the group when a blast tore through the hallway. He hit the floor hard. The lights went out. When the shaking stopped, the corridor was silent. Ethan stood up slowly. He was bleeding from his forehead, but his eyes were focused. He turned back toward the academy hall. The crate was still there. Emergency lights flickered as Ethan reached it. The metal surface was scratched but intact. He placed his hand on a control panel. "I need you now," he said quietly. The crate opened. The sound that followed was deep and low. A growl that did not belong to space. A massive grizzly bear stepped out. Its fur was thick and dark. Its shoulders nearly touched the ceiling. Its eyes were sharp and alive. This was not a monster. This was Earth's power, raw and real. The bear stood beside Ethan and lowered its head slightly. Footsteps echoed behind them. Captain Zorvac entered the hall with armed guards. He stopped the moment he saw the bear. For the first time in years, Zorvac did not speak. The grizzly lifted its head and growled. The sound vibrated through metal walls. The guards froze. Some stepped back without realizing it. Zorvac forced himself to laugh. "A beast," he said. "You brought an animal to a war." The ship shook again. A blast tore open part of the wall. Enemy soldiers poured into the hall, tall, armored, screaming as they fired. The grizzly moved. It charged with terrifying speed. Its roar drowned out weapons fire. It slammed into the first enemy, crushing armor like thin metal. Claws ripped. Teeth struck. The attackers fell in seconds. The alien guard stared in shock. Ethan moved with purpose. He guided the bear with calm words, never raising his voice. The grizzly obeyed instantly, protecting him, clearing the path. Zorvac watched as the enemy retreated in panic. "This is impossible," he whispered. Ethan turned to face him. "This is Earth," he said. More enemy ships slammed into the fleet. Communications failed. The Academy ship was losing power. Zorvak looked at the human again, not as a joke, not as a weak creature, but as something dangerous. "Who are you?" Zorvak asked. "A recruit," Ethan replied. The Grizzly stepped forward and growled again, standing between Ethan and the captain. The meaning was clear. The war outside was growing. And for the first time, the alien fleet understood that humanity had not arrived alone. The Academy ship was breaking apart. Fire burned along the walls. Emergency lights flickered like dying stars. The sound of metal tearing echoed through the corridors as enemy weapons struck again and again. Alien officers ran in all directions, shouting orders that no one could fully follow anymore. Ethan moved through the chaos with steady steps. The Grizzly stayed close, its massive body blocking incoming fire and debris. Where the bear walked, enemies did not stay long. Captain Zorvak followed several steps behind. His soldiers formed a wide circle around him, weapons raised, but their hands were shaking. None of them ever seen a creature like this. None of them had ever seen enemies fall so easily. "This creature," Zorvak said, forcing his voice to sound calm. "It obeys you." "Yes," Ethan replied simply. "How?" Zorvak demanded. Ethan did not answer right away. He stopped near a shattered viewing window. Outside, space was full of fire. Ships burned. Explosions lit the darkness. "Because it trusts me," Ethan finally said. Zorvak did not understand that answer. Trust was not how the galaxy worked. Power ruled everything. Fear controlled loyalty. Yet the Grizzly stayed close to the human without chains, without control devices. The ship shook violently. A warning alarm screamed. Structural failure on lower decks. An officer shouted, "We are losing control." Enemy troops poured in again from the far end of the corridor. They were larger than the first wave, wearing heavy armor, their weapons glowing red. Zorvak raised his weapon. "Fire!" The guards fired together. Energy bolts filled the air. Some enemies fell, but more kept coming. The Grizzly roared and charged once more. It moved faster than any alien expected. Its strength was beyond logic. Armor cracked. Weapons flew from hands. The corridor filled with screams and fear. Ethan stayed behind the bear, watching everything carefully. He did not rush. He did not panic. He spoke calmly, guiding the Grizzly's movement, keeping it focused. When the last enemy fell, the corridor was silent again. Zorvak stared at the bodies, then at the bear, then at Ethan. "This war," Zorvak said slowly, "was not meant for humans." Ethan looked at him. "No," he said. "But it came to us anyway." Another explosion rocked the ship. The floor tilted sharply. Far away, the sound of air escaping screamed through broken hulls. A new officer ran toward them. "Captain, command deck is lost. The enemy has taken control of navigation. We cannot escape." Zorvak's claws tightened. He had never faced defeat like this. His fleet was falling apart, and the enemy showed no mercy. "Then we counterattack," Zorvak said. "With what?" The officer asked. "Our weapons are failing." Zorvak's eyes slowly returned to Ethan. "You," he said quietly. Ethan did not react. "I'm just a recruit." Zorvak stepped closer. "You are something else. Your people hide their strength." "Why?" Ethan thought for a moment. "Because showing it too early makes others afraid, and fear creates enemies." Zorvak felt a strange chill. Humans thought differently. They planned differently. The Grizzly suddenly stopped and lifted its head. Its ears moved. Its body tensed. "What is it?" Zorvak asked. "They were coming," Ethan said. The walls burst open. A massive enemy commander stepped through the smoke. It was taller than any alien there, covered in dark armor, glowing red eyes fixed on the Grizzly. "So this is the beast," the commander said in a deep voice. "Kill it." Heavy weapons fired at once. The Grizzly took the hits and roared in pain, but it did not fall. It pushed forward, protecting Ethan with its body. "Fall back," Zorvak shouted, but Ethan stepped forward instead. "Stay," he said to the bear. The Grizzly hesitated, then obeyed, standing firm. Ethan faced the enemy commander alone. "You think strength is only weapons and armor," Ethan said calmly. "That is why you lose." The commander laughed and raised its weapon. The Grizzly moved faster than thought. It struck the commander from the side, slamming it into the wall with crushing force. The armor shattered. The red glow faded. The enemy leader fell silent. The remaining enemies retreated immediately. Silence returned once more. Zorvak slowly lowered his weapon. His breathing was heavy. His heart was racing. "This changes everything," he said. "Yes," Ethan replied. "That is why we came." Zorvak stared at him. "Humans planned this war?" "No," Ethan said, "but we prepared for it." The ship trembled again. Power systems failed one by one. The Academy ship was dying. "We must abandon ship," an officer said. Zorvak nodded, then turned to Ethan. "You and your companion will come with us." Ethan looked at the Grizzly. The bear lowered its head slightly. "All right," Ethan said. As they moved toward the escape bays, Zorvak walked beside the human. "I mocked you," Zorvak said quietly. "I was wrong." Ethan did not smile. Most are. Escape pods launched into space as the Academy ship finally broke apart behind them. Fire and metal vanished into darkness. Inside one of the pods, Zorvak watched Ethan and the Grizzly sit calmly together. "What happens now?" Zorvak asked. Ethan looked out at the stars. "Now the galaxy learns who humans really are." The Grizzly let out a low growl as if agreeing, and far away, unseen by any of them, more ships were already moving. The war was only beginning. The escape pod drifted silently through space. Inside, the air was tense. The hum of damaged systems filled the small chamber. Ethan sat calmly, one hand resting on the metal floor. The Grizzly lay beside him, its massive chest rising and falling slowly. Even injured, it looked powerful. Its presence made the pod feel smaller. Captain Zorvak stood near the control panel, watching the stars pass by. His thoughts were heavy. His Academy ship was gone. His pride was broken, and a human had changed everything. Other pods appeared on the scanners. Survivors. Not many. "We are being tracked," an officer said quietly. Zorvak's head snapped up. "By the enemy?" "No," the officer replied. "Unknown signals. Multiple sources." Ethan's eyes narrowed slightly. "They found us faster than expected." Zorvak turned to him. "Who?" "The galaxy," Ethan said. The pod docked with a nearby alien warship that had survived the attack. As the doors opened, soldiers rushed forward, weapons raised. They froze the moment they saw the Grizzly. Some stepped back. Others stared in fear. "It's under control," Zorvak said quickly. "Stand down." They obeyed, but uneasily. Ethan walked out first. The Grizzly followed, its claws clicking softly against the metal floor. Whispers spread through the ship as they passed. "That's the beast. It killed armored units. It obeys the human." They reached the command chamber. Large holograms flickered to life, showing damaged fleets, lost sectors, and incoming signals from many systems. An elderly alien admiral appeared on the central display. His skin was pale blue, his eyes sharp despite his age. "Captain Zorvak," the admiral said. "Explain." Zorvak straightened. "We were attacked without warning. Our academy was destroyed. The enemy was repelled." "Repelled?" the admiral asked. "Your reports show overwhelming force." Zorvak glanced at Ethan. "Because of him." The admiral's eyes shifted to the human. "A recruit?" "Yes." The admiral studied Ethan carefully. "Human," he said. "Step forward." Ethan did. "You brought an Earth predator onto a military vessel," the admiral said. "Why?" Ethan's voice was calm. "Because war does not care about rules." Some officers murmured in anger. "You think an animal changes the balance of power?" the admiral asked. "No," Ethan replied. "It reveals it." The admiral leaned back. "You speak boldly for someone so new." Ethan met his gaze. "We learned early. The galaxy respects strength. Humans survived by learning how to work with it." The Grizzly lifted its head and looked at the hologram. Its eyes reflected the glowing data. The admiral fell silent. Suddenly, alarms rang again. "Incoming transmission," an officer shouted. From the enemy fleet, the screen shifted. A tall armored figure appeared, its voice cold and sharp. "You failed to kill the human," the enemy commander said. "That was your final mistake." Zorvak stepped forward. "You attacked a neutral academy. You trained soldiers," the commander replied. "That made you a target." Its glowing eyes shifted to Ethan. "Human, you should not exist." Ethan did not flinch. "Yet here I am." The commander's voice hardened. "We will erase you, your species, your world." The transmission cut off. Silence filled the chamber. The Admiral exhaled slowly. This is no longer a small war. Ethan spoke again. It never was. Zorvac turned to him. You knew this would happen. Yes, Ethan said. We warned them. Who? The Admiral asked. Humanity, Ethan replied. We sent messages, few listened. The Grizzly stood up suddenly. Its fur bristled. It growled low and deep. What is it sensing? An officer asked nervously. Fear, Ethan said. Not ours. New signals appeared on the hologram. Dozens, hundreds. Ships jumped into space around them. Human ships. They were different, simple, heavy. Built for survival, not beauty. Their engines burned bright and steady. The bridge fell silent. A transmission came through. This is the human defense fleet, a voice said. We have your position. The Admiral stared at the display. You came prepared. Ethan nodded. We always do. The human fleet formed a defensive wall around the damaged alien ship. Enemy scouts pulled back immediately. Zorvac felt something he had never felt before. Relief. The Admiral turned to Ethan. Why protect us? Ethan looked around the room. Because today it was you. Tomorrow it could be anyone. The Grizzly sat beside Ethan again, calm and alert. The Admiral studied them both. The galaxy fears humanity. Ethan answered honestly. It should, but we prefer respect. A moment passed. Then we will stand with you, the Admiral said. The decision echoed through the chamber. Officers nodded slowly. Far away, the enemy fleet regrouped. Plans were rewritten. Strategies changed. They had expected weak humans. They had found something else. And on the bridge of a damaged alien ship, a human recruit and an Earth predator stood together as allies were chosen and enemies were warned. The war was spreading, and humanity was no longer hiding. The human fleet moved like a wall of iron. Alien officers watched in silence as the human ships took formation around them. There was no chaos, no shouting, no confusion. Every movement was slow, steady, and controlled. It was not the speed of fear. It was the calm of preparation. Captain Zorvac stood on the bridge, his arms behind his back. He had fought many wars, but he had never seen this kind of discipline. They are not afraid, he said quietly. No, the Admiral replied. They are ready. Ethan stood near the center of the bridge. The Grizzly remained close, sitting calmly despite the tension. Its wounds were treated by human medics who had arrived from one of the ships. The bear did not resist. It trusted them completely. Enemy signals appeared again on the hologram. This time, they did not attack immediately. They are watching, an officer said. They are thinking. Ethan replied. Zorvac turned toward him. You expect another attack? Yes, Ethan said, but not like before. As if on cue, a message arrived from the enemy fleet. The same commander appeared on the screen. You hide behind allies now, human, it said. Your kind is weak alone. Ethan stepped forward. Then come see. The commander's eyes narrowed. We will. The transmission ended. Moments later, space twisted as enemy ships jumped in around the system. Not hundreds this time. Thousands. The bridge filled with alarm sounds. They broke everything, an officer whispered. The Admiral clenched his jaw. This is an extermination fleet. Human ships did not move. Zorvac watched closely. Why are they waiting? Ethan spoke calmly. Because they are afraid of what they do not understand. Enemy ships began firing. Space lit up with energy beams. Explosions erupted across the front line of human ships. The human fleet absorbed the attack. Shields flared but did not break. Then the humans responded. Their weapons were not flashy. No bright colors, no loud blasts. Just deep pulses that moved like waves through space. Enemy ships vanished. Not exploded. Gone. Entire sections of the fleet disappeared as if erased. Silence spread across the bridge. Zorvac's breath caught. What weapon is that? Gravity control, Ethan said. We learned how dangerous space itself can be. Enemy ships panicked. Formations broke. Some tried to flee. Human ships adjusted calmly, closing the net. The Grizzly stood up suddenly, growling again. They are boarding, Ethan said. Multiple enemy vessels slammed into the alien ship's hull. Breach alarms sounded. Enemy soldiers poured inside. Zorvac drew his weapon. This time they come for you. Ethan nodded. Then they will regret it. Corridors filled with smoke and gunfire. Alien and human soldiers fought side by side, but the enemy was desperate now, reckless and violent. In one corridor, a large enemy unit broke through defenses. Alien soldiers were pushed back. Ethan stepped forward. The Grizzly moved ahead of him. It charged with unstoppable force. The narrow hallway echoed with its roar. Enemy soldiers fired wildly, but the bear did not stop. It knocked them down, crushed armor, cleared the path. Ethan followed, moving with precision, using captured weapons when needed. He never raised his voice. He never hesitated. Zorvak watched from behind, disbelief filling his mind. This was not chaos. This was control. The enemy commander appeared again, this time in person. It stood taller than before, armor reinforced, eyes glowing with fury. So the human hides behind an animal, it said. Ethan stopped a few steps away. No, he replied, I stand beside a partner. The commander laughed and charged. The Grizzly met it head-on. The clash shook the corridor, middle bent. The commander struck with heavy weapons, but the bear absorbed the blows and fought back with pure strength. Ethan watched carefully, waiting. When the commander overextended, Ethan moved. He fired once, disabling the armor's core. The commander fell to its knees. This is not over, it hissed. Ethan walked closer. It is for you. The Grizzly roared and struck. The corridor fell silent. Across the ship, enemy forces began to retreat. Some surrendered. Others fled. The battle ended. Back on the bridge, damage reports came in. Losses were heavy, but the fleet had survived. The admiral turned to Ethan. You could have taken control. Ethan shook his head. That was never the goal. Then what is? Zorvak asked. Ethan looked at the stars. Balance. The Grizzly sat beside him again, calm as ever. A message arrived from Earth. Phase 2 authorized. Zorvak frowned. Phase 2? Ethan did not explain. Human ships began moving toward multiple star lanes at once. They are spreading, an officer said. Yes, the admiral replied slowly. They are not ending the war, they are containing it. Zorvak felt a strange weight in his chest. You planned for this, he said. Ethan nodded. We hoped we would not need to use it. The Grizzly let out a low growl, sensing tension. Far away, enemy worlds watched human ships appear at their borders. Fear spread faster than light. The galaxy was changing, and at its center stood a human recruit once mocked as weak and a creature from Earth that reminded everyone what true power looked like. The war had reached a turning point, and humanity was just getting started. The galaxy did not sleep after that battle. News spread faster than ships could travel. Entire fleets erased. Enemy commanders defeated. A human recruit standing at the center of it all, always with the same silent guardian beside him. On many worlds, alien leaders watched the recordings again and again. They saw the Grizzly charge through armored soldiers. They saw human ships bend space itself. They heard Ethan's calm voice in the middle of chaos. Fear grew. Inside the Joint Command Station, tension filled every room. Alien and human officers worked together, but trust was still fragile. Old beliefs did not break easily. Captain Zorvak stood alone near a large window, staring into space. He no longer wore his medals. They felt heavy now. You're thinking too loudly, Ethan said, stepping beside him. Zorvak did not turn. Everything I believed was wrong. Ethan stayed quiet. We ruled by fear, Zorvak continued. We laughed at weakness. And now weakness has saved us. Ethan shook his head. Not weakness, restraint. Zorvak finally looked at him. Then why does the galaxy still fear you? Because we choose when not to act, Ethan replied. The Grizzly lay nearby, resting but alert. Its eyes followed every movement in the room. An alarm sounded. Not a battle alarm. A priority signal. All command staff to the central chamber, a voice announced. They arrived to find the admiral already there, his face tight. We have intercepted a message, he said. From the enemy's core world. The hologram activated. A massive planet appeared, covered in cities and defense platforms. They are preparing something, the admiral continued. Not an attack. Ethan studied the image. It's a trap, he said. Yes, the admiral agreed. They are calling for negotiations, Zorvak scoffed. After all this, they are desperate. The admiral replied they believe they can control the outcome. Ethan crossed his arms. They want to see us up close, and you will go. Zorvak asked. Ethan nodded. I have to. The room went silent. That world is the heart of their empire, the admiral warned. You may not return. Ethan looked down at the Grizzly. The bear lifted its head and met his eyes. I won't go alone, Ethan said. The journey took days. Human ships escorted a single diplomatic vessel toward the enemy core world. Alien observers joined them, watching every detail. As they entered orbit, the size of the planet stunned even the humans. Defense platforms surrounded it like thorns. They are not lowering their weapons, an officer said. They won't, Ethan replied calmly. The landing zone was massive, built to impress and intimidate. Rows of enemy soldiers stood waiting, armor polished, weapons visible. Ethan stepped out first. The Grizzly followed. A ripple of fear passed through the soldiers. Some shifted their stance, others stared frozen. The enemy leaders emerged from a towering structure. They were many, representing different factions, all united by fear. You come to negotiate, their leader said, voice echoing. With an animal. Ethan met his gaze. With the truth. They entered a vast hall filled with symbols of conquest. Screens showed burning worlds, defeated fleets, broken civilization. This is our strength, the leader said. You cannot defeat us here. Ethan looked around slowly. You already lost, he said. The leader laughed. Then why are you here? To stop what comes next, Ethan replied. The leader, expression hardened. You threaten us? No, Ethan said. I warn you. The Grizzly growled softly. The sound echoed through the hall. You fear extinction, Ethan continued. So do we. The difference is how we prevent it. The leader leaned forward. Speak. Ethan took a breath. Humanity does not conquer worlds, we protect balance. You broke it. The leader slammed a claw onto the floor. You erase fleets. Only when pushed, Ethan replied. Silence followed. Then the leader smiled coldly. You think you can control what you started? Ethan's eyes narrowed. We already do. The lights flickered. A new hologram appeared, not controlled by the enemy. It showed dozens of enemy core systems surrounded, blocked, isolated. Human ships were everywhere. Gasps filled the hall. You didn't come to talk, the leader whispered. You came to end us. No, Ethan said firmly. I came to give you a choice. The leader looked at the Grizzly, at the human, at the screens. What choice? He asked. Stand down, Ethan said. Disarm. Withdraw from occupied worlds. And if we refuse, the leader asked. Ethan placed a hand on the Grizzly's shoulder. Then the galaxy will survive without you. The Grizzly roared. The sound was not rage. It was final. The enemy leaders panicked. Arguments broke out. Fear took control. Zorvac watched from the human ship, listening to the feed. He had never seen an empire break without a single shot fired. Moments later, the leader spoke again, voice shaking. We accept. The hall fell silent. Ethan nodded. Once. Then this war ends today. The Grizzly lowered its head. As Ethan turned to leave, the leader called out. Human. Ethan stopped. What are you? The leader asked quietly. Ethan looked back. We are what survives. The ship lifted off, leaving the enemy world behind. Back aboard the command station, celebrations did not come. Relief did. Exhaustion did. Zorvac approached Ethan one last time. The galaxy will never forget this. Ethan looked at the stars. We hope it learns from it. The Grizzly rested beside him, eyes calm. But far beyond known space, something ancient stirred, something that had been watching. The war was over, but the truth was about to be tested out. The galaxy slowly grew quiet. For the first time in generations, major war signals faded from the star maps. Trade routes reopened. Fleets returned home. Worlds that had lived under fear began to breathe again. On the Joint Command Station, lights were dimmer now, not because of damage, but because urgency had passed. Officers spoke in lower voices. Movements were slower. The war was over. Ethan stood near the observation window, watching distant stars. The Grizzly lay beside him, resting peacefully. Its scars were healing. Its strength remained. Captain Zorvac approached quietly. They have begun withdrawing from occupied systems, Zorvac said. They are keeping their word. Ethan nodded. Fear can keep promises when nothing else can. Zorvac studied the human carefully. You could rule this galaxy if you wanted. Ethan did not turn. That would only start the next war. Zorvac let out a slow breath. Then what happens to you? Ethan looked down at the Grizzly. The bear opened one eye and looked back. "I go home," Ethan said. The Admiral joined them moments later. His posture was relaxed for the first time. "The Council has voted," he said. "Humans are no longer classified as a minor species." Zorvak gave a short laugh. "That label seems foolish now. They want an alliance," the Admiral continued, "a permanent one." Ethan turned. And they want you as Earth's representative." Ethan was silent for a long moment. "No," he said gently. The Admiral frowned. "You earned that place." Ethan shook his head. "I was never meant to lead the galaxy. I was meant to remind it." The Grizzly shifted closer to him, as if agreeing. A message arrived from Earth. Ethan listened quietly. When it ended, he exhaled. "They were calling you back?" Zorvak asked. "Yes," Ethan replied. "The program is complete." Zorvak's eyes widened. "Program?" Ethan met his gaze. "I was never just a recruit." Zorvak felt a chill. "Then what were you?" "A test," Ethan said. "For all of us," he explained slowly. "Humanity had known war would come one day. Not because they wanted it, but because the galaxy followed patterns. Strong empires always tested the unknown. So Earth prepared not with fleets first, but with understanding. They studied psychology, fear, pride, balance. The Grizzly was never a weapon. It was a message. Earth, as predators, were not controlled by force, but by trust. Humanity survived not by domination, but by cooperation with danger itself. If the galaxy could understand that, there would be peace. If not, humanity would still survive. Zorvak closed his eyes briefly. "You showed us mercy we did not deserve." Ethan smiled faintly. "You learned. That matters." Preparations were made quietly. No grand ceremony, no medals. Just a ship ready to return to Earth. As Ethan walked toward the docking bay, officers from many species stood aside. Some bowed their heads. Others placed hands over their chests in respect. The Grizzly walked proudly beside him. Zorvak followed until the ramp. "Will we meet again?" Zorvak asked. Ethan stopped and turned. "If the galaxy remembers today, then no, and if it forgets?" Zorvak asked. Ethan glanced at the stars. "Then we will remind it again." The Grizzly let out a soft rumble. The ship lifted off smoothly, slipping into hyperspace. Back on the command station, Zorvak stood alone for a long time. The galaxy had changed, not because humanity conquered it, but because humanity refused to. Far away, on Earth, the ship landed quietly in a hidden facility surrounded by forests and mountains. Ethan stepped onto solid ground. The air smelled of rain and trees. The Grizzly stepped out beside him. People waited nearby. Scientists, soldiers, leaders. None spoke. Ethan removed his uniform and placed it carefully on a table. "It's done," he said. A woman stepped forward. "The galaxy. It learned," Ethan replied. "For now." The Grizzly walked into the forest without hesitation. Ethan followed. Trees closed around them. Birds flew overhead. Life continued. In the distance, stars shone quietly. Humanity returned to the shadows, not out of fear but choice. They would watch. They would wait. And if the galaxy ever forgot the lesson of balance, loyalty, and respect, Earth would still be there. Not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as survivors. And somewhere among the trees, a grizzly bear stood beside its master, guarding a world that did not seek war but would never lose it again.